Idaho now, the state is no longer providing COVID vaccines to people. You have to pay for it yourself. And they suggested you buy this health pack that includes ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine.
You know, Vincent, I hate to say this, but I feel like dare I say we're falling down on the job, right? So yeah, just so people, our listeners, if they're not aware. So down in the part of Idaho, in the health district where Boise and some neighboring towns are, the Department of Health there will no longer be giving out COVID vaccines.
Right.
And it's really interesting. Several points. So one is they weren't giving out a lot. They may be giving out like 50 in the last year, right? So there wasn't this huge demand, but this was the place where people who were experiencing homelessness or people had financial issues, this is where they could get access to the vaccines. And the decision was made, okay, we're not going to do this. But here's why I say we're falling down. So who from the other side went to this meeting? And you had Peter McCullough, right? So here's a guy who's really versed with the rhetoric. How can I, and you know, and the rhetoric was really devious, I'm going to say, at risk of getting myself into trouble. You know, the whole idea was, listen, if you give them out, you're endorsing them. You're giving tacit approval that they are safe. Why don't you just step back and people can get those vaccines elsewhere and you're not exposing yourself? You're not complicit in suggesting that they're safe. You know, the argument is slippery. And, you know, and if they're really worried about mRNA, then what about Novavax? If you're only doing 50, 60 a year, what about if you have an issue with the mRNA technology? What about Novavax? And why wasn't someone from our group? Why wasn't Paul Offit or you or I up there in Idaho, right?
But Daniel, the vaccines are safe. You're not exposing anyone to risk.
Yeah. And the other part, right? I mean, where does this guy get the money to go and fly up there and do this? Basically, and as you pointed out, don't get your vaccine. Instead, give me your money. Yeah. And I will give you my COVID emergency pack with hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin.
Which
so he's there. Yeah, he's there selling snake oil and financing.
Welcome to the USA, folks.
Yeah. So, all right.